Hi guys, welcome back to week 2 of In My Pocket Collaboration Travel Edition. So hopefully you got a ton of inspiration last week, seeing how everyone starts their projects, some organization ideas, some photo ideas, maybe even some different format ideas. Maybe you saw some sizes or configurations that you hadn't thought about doing before, so that's really exciting. Maybe it inspired you to sit down and lay out a project that you'd been putting off. Maybe you're just still thinking about it. That's great. It's only been a week. This workshop is accessible indefinitely, so you have plenty of time to rewatch these videos, come back, keep working on your album, finish one album, start another. It's all good. So this week I wanted to talk a little bit more about the products I'm going to use, not necessarily in a upselling kind of way or a promotional kind of way, but kind of how I think about products, how I choose what to use in my various travel albums, what products are available, that kind of thing. For this particular album, I'm very much into the mood of a vacation. The products that I use in my Disney album are very different than the products I use in like a Europe city break, which is very different than the products I use for a beach vacation, for instance. So again, this is a very European city break, old, historical, lots and lots of like yellows and reds from the architecture, lots of towers, things like that. So I really think about the mood and use that to guide me in what products I want to use. And also, as I mentioned last week, this is a different album for me because I did not go on this vacation. I was supposed to, a family emergency came up, and so I ended up not going. So all of the content, the pictures, the stories, everything is from the perspective of my boyfriend, which is amazing. It's so fun to see. It's not something I get a lot. I tend to be the documenter in the family. So it's really fun for me to have this whole album from his perspective. What that means is I'm probably not going to have a lot of super detailed stories. I did also go to Prague 2 years later when he had to go back for a work event. And I went to a lot of the same places, which makes it really nice for me because I can identify the places. I have some context. I know what I'm working with. But I don't have a lot of specific stories for those places, and I will have specific stories when I put together the album of my sightseeing while he was at his work event. What I want to do now is start thinking about what products kind of give me this older European city vibe, but aren't going to be a lot of very specific, detailed journaling cards or like open spaces that need to be filled in, that kind of thing. And so what I decided I wanted to work with was a lot of the Allie Edwards products. So I've been a big fan of Allie Edwards. I'm not affiliated, but I've been a fan for a long time. I've collected a lot more products than I've used, and I feel like this is going to be a really good opportunity to put some of these to use. So I pulled out a few different collections or categories from my Allie Edwards cards to start with. And what I want to do is go through my album and start slotting in as many as these cards make sense, and then see what I have left as far as empty pockets or stories I might still want to tell or things I still need, and then go through my other categories of Allie Edwards products and start filling those in as well. I should say I am a little bit notorious for not using one brand or one company throughout even a page. I really mix and match things, pull from my stash, just whatever I'm inspired to use. And I think that's how I get my own vibe or my own style. But I very frequently start this way, which is I'll start placing cards that I want to use from a collection or a company, and then I'll assess it and see what I still need and pull in things from my stash. So in this case, I definitely will be pulling embellishments from other places. For sure, stamps. I have a very large travel stamp collection, and probably pattern cards. There's not a ton of those included in these collections. So probably 12 by 12 papers actually that I've cut down in different kind of travel themes, like things like maps or airplanes or whatever, but also just polka dots and stripes and just lots of neutral things. And by blending all these together, that's kind of how I find my own style for my album. Give you a quick introduction. The three collections, or the three categories of my Ali Edward products I pulled are the food related things, and that's the Eat Story Kit, which came out quite a few years. Actually, I want to say the Eat Story Kit might have come out while I was in the States and not on this trip. So, I mean, in a roundabout way, I guess that kind of makes a lot of sense. So I have both the Eat Story Kit, which is occasionally available as digital now, and there was an entire like foodie release she did, so I have the cards from that as well. Those are all digital that I've printed just with my normal photos from a professional lab. And I have 4x6 and 3x4, just kind of in a little stack here. So I will go ahead and start filling those in on the pages that have like food themes, and that'll be a really good start there. I also have the Lynn's Story Kit, which came out around, I think maybe the month after Eat. It's very much about photography and taking pictures and capturing things, but also very much about perspective and seeing things like maybe through other people's eyes, or how things look through your eyes, that kind of thing. So I thought that'd be a really fun kit to use to start some prompts for a trip that's entirely taken by someone else that I'm now putting together. And then of course she does really, really amazing annual travel kits or travel releases. And I think I have 2019 and 2020 here. So I've used these for sure. I've used all of this stuff for sure several times, but because most of it's digital, I can reprint them. My travel ones are paper. So these, I bought the physical products, the physical travel kits, a lot of the embellishments, and I just, as I get a New Year's worth, I just mix them together. So this is 2019 and 2020's releases. They are still available, I believe, on the website digitally if you see anything that you like there. One of the years came with this little tag paper pad, like there's a bunch of them together. So I just put one here to remember that in case I wanted to use it. I love the simplicity of it. It just says date there. You can put like writing or a smaller ticket or a picture, anything you want there. So that's really cool. And then I think 2020 came with these envelopes that did have cards in them. I've taken them out, but just lots of like little craft envelopes with white embossed patterns on them, and I thought that'd be really a good fit for kind of the browns and reds and, you know, old-fashioned photos of Prague. And I can put tickets in there, I can put, you know, photos in there if I have multiples, just lots and lots of things. So I put those there too. So what I'm going to start doing now is I will go through the album, start just putting cards in pockets where I think I want them. I always reserve the right to pull them back out if I decide not to use it when I get there, but I'm just going to give myself a foundation to work on. Because this is an older trip, because it's already here, printed, laid out, ready to go, and because it's not a trip I went on, it's not my perspective, I think this is a really good one to show you tackling as a whole from beginning to end. So not necessarily working on it spread by spread by spread, but going through and putting in a bulk of the cards and then maybe doing a bulk of the titles and just really finding a repetitive process, repetitive groove that moves it forward. So I am going to go ahead and start putting cards in pockets, and we'll come back at the end and see how it looks then. All right, so I thought I would pop back in with a little bit of an update here. Bear with me, I did change directions a little, so I hope this might be useful for some of you, but I give you a little bit of an overview of how I've recently changed my 3x4 cards and how they're organized. Basically, a couple months ago, I took almost everything I own that's not for a design team, and I reorganized it by color. So I got these really great bins here. They're by a British company called Wham, but I imagine you can get them most places. And these are 30 by 10 by 10 centimeters, and they're about £2. So I bought a whole bunch of those and just started organizing all of my cards in rainbow order. And so what I did when I wanted to do this was I went and I pulled my multicolor and themed section, which is here, and which I have honestly not organized in any way yet. So basically, if it was a multicolor or a theme like travel or sports, not holidays, holidays go somewhere else, but that, or, you know, just a multicolor pattern, a lot of Studio Calico up in here. I went ahead and stuck in this one. And then I also pulled out my white, gray, and black bin, which is this one here. So you can see each color just has like a little tab that separates it. So white, gray, black. And then I have a ton of white. I'm probably going to end up with an entirely white bin at some point. And then I'll probably put the gray and black with like the browns and tans. Have a neutral. So I went in here. What I wanted to do was pick out some white cards that were more like leading, like a lot of who, what, where, when, and why, or best things about this moment, or things that have lists like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I could label photos and then just put them into a list. And then I also wanted to go into my multicolors because I needed to establish a little bit of a color scheme. So I kind of went through, just pulled out anything I thought would work. And then I found as I was putting them in, I was picking like a lot of jewel tones, which worked really well for like the aesthetic of Prague. So I kind of went there, started filling things in, and then went back again with my Ali Edwards ones to fill in some of those. So I thought we'd take a quick look here. I'm gonna move that so you don't have a shadow. I thought we'd take a quick look here at where we stand as I'm starting to put some cards into the pockets, and then we'll see where we go next. So just opening up here, I did find a card. It just had a camera on it and said 2017. This album is from 2017. I would be totally okay with just covering up the 2017 if I wanted to use this in another album, but it works here. Cameras always work for a travel album, in my opinion, so I thought I'd stick it in and see if I could get it used. So going through, I did end up pulling one. This just has like a little bit of a bracket type thing, but this isn't a very good photo. It was quite like blurry. So I thought what I would do is use this card as a little bit of a frame just to make it more interesting. The story of this adventure, say yes to new adventure. I am not above using the word adventure on every single card. It's probably my favorite word. So yeah, just going through, put one here behind some tickets. I pulled a lot of Krista Celine from Celine Studios cards. She did the stories and click project life kits, and so I have a lot of pieces from those too, and then some I've picked up from her website as well. That one's Feed Your Craft, but it's like a really good representation of the color schemes I was looking for. So this one in particular, I know I went looking for something that had 4 spots because I have 4 pieces of art here that I wanted to just identify. I don't need to tell a lot of story about them or a lot of context. I just wanted to identify what the piece or the sculpture was or represented. So I will literally just go through and write 1, 2, 3, 4 and what it is, and then label them. So you can see some, have almost all the cards filled in, some have almost none. This one, if I pull this out, you can see it's a place for like a little video or something. So it literally has, the little play button, a little box, and then captured. And I thought I could go ahead and just put a QR code of the video there, and it would be super easy and graphic and simple and just fit really well there. So. Again, this is from the Click Core Kit, and I just love anything photography themed for travel. I actually tend to prefer things that are photography themed for travel rather than specifically travel themed items, because photography just plays such a huge role in what I'm doing. Like, this is literally at the top of a tower, just taking pictures of everything. So the little like viewfinder focus card was perfect there. Just a really simple and basic kind of food themed card there. Again, more cameras and wood grains. Some simple words. This one doesn't have any cards yet at all. So there's somewhere, like this whole section is kind of the same area. It's all within like the castle district, and there's almost no cards in there because I haven't quite visualized yet how I want to tackle that. But a lot of the more specific pages do have some things. And so again, this is one that's like instructions, step 1, step 2, step 3. And I think that's just a really good place to identify 3 different sites within this page. And more camera themes, some more feeder craft with that really nice kind of jewel tone color scheme. Story of this meal. Again, it's the same 2017 camera card as I used on the first page, but this time in black. So I just went ahead and tucked that in there. And then I also have just a really basic who, what, where, when, and why, I believe from the Stories Project Life Kit. So these are going to be really good to just fill in some of the details without having to commit to a lot of prose and paragraph forms. Again, somewhere just identifies like 3 different sections within the site. Super easy to just pop a number on the different photos and have that done. This is another really good example of why I went back to my multicolored cards. I believe that one is Kelly Perky, but just this really nice kind of jewel tone span of colors that I can now use to pull the rest of it together. Love this view, using a lot of view things for all the different towers and landscapes in Prague. Pulling in some more of these reddy, peachy colors because most of the roofs are that color. Took the opportunity to use kind of a bright, fun colored card. Oh, it's black, so maybe it's not that bright. But a multicolored card to use with the John Lennon wall because it's very artistic and multicolored. And just, I do love the concept of all the things when I travel as well, so that worked out really well there. And then I've been gradually noticing that I do still have several pages of photos to fill in. I did pull out this one. It's very old. It might be Mambi? Probably. We'll go with that. And it's just trip highlights, best food, best view, best souvenir, biggest surprise. And I thought that would be fun to have Ken fill in, just as kind of a wrap up of his trip. I think that might be, yeah, so then that's the next trip. So as you can see, just kind of trying to get at this point, just really getting a idea for where I want to go with this album, getting a feel. I feel like I'm using some pretty simple cards here because most things in Prague are so ornate and lovely and old, and I don't want to fight with that. So I'm really looking to pull out cards that are quite simple, have just some simple little questions to fill in rather than big story spots. And then in places like this, so these are all filled in. I need something here. I need something behind the tickets. And then I need a title card. So this just kind of gives me an idea to start with. And when I sit down to do that page, I'll pull the rest of those cards in and really fill it all in. So that's where we stand now. I have a couple more stacks of cards that I'm thinking about going through that I pulled out when I was going through my different boxes, these little tubs of 3x4 cards. So I'm going to keep going and see where I go next. So I have a couple more sets of cards I've pulled out from my larger storage collections. I'm going to go through again, see if there's any place to stick them in, and then I'll just keep them all together in a little bit of a kit, and then as I'm finishing pages, I'm going to pull from there first. So all of the ones I've showed you already, including the Allie Edwards ones, and then the ones that I pulled from my multicolor and white, I just have in this little like tub here. It's very thin. It just sits on the side of my desk. And so after I'm finished with this last little selection of cards, I'm going to go ahead and put them in there as well and start actually, pulling out some of the other products and finishing pages. So I have a couple of things here. I have a Paisley press kit. I believe it was a Project Life branded one by Liz Tamanaha, and it's like a he themed one. So he said his point of view, that kind of thing. And then this one is from another Liz Tamanaha Project Life set. But text messages I thought would be a really good one because a lot of these photos Ken sent to me as text messages since I was in the States and he was in Europe. I have another little stack of multicolored kind of Project Life cards that I pulled out that I might want to stick in there somewhere. And then I pulled out, I have a section in one of these tubs of 12 by 12 paper that I've cut down into 3 by 4s. So I thought I would go through here and see if there's anything that was appropriate. So I have a little like travel section here. I definitely thought the colors would work, and you know, kind of the cityscapes and compasses, that kind of thing could be fun. So the travel ones, and then I also have a section that I keep by rainbow order. So I thought I would just kind of flip through here and see if there's any of these like more kind of subtle, smaller patterns that I wanted to stick in. And I'll keep those next to me as I'm finishing pages as well. So that's where I'm going. I'll be back.